Welcome to the class. This is my final class. I won't be teaching attraction anymore after this. I'm done, so I'm glad you guys could be a part of it. Thank you very much. As you can see, the name of the class is called Hacking Attraction. I didn't reveal any of this stuff at all to anybody beforehand. It's been a crazy journey for me, getting all this stuff put together and especially realizing the new curriculum too. Okay, so there are 4 days of this course, and each day we're going to go over a different topic. Today's topic, if I can turn this without it exploding, is Hack Yourself. Hack Yourself is all about inner game, but it's not just inner game like you've understood inner game. This is inner game, and it's not blanketed. It's very specific. I've come across some really amazing insight recently. I mean, even up until the past 10 days, I've been vigorously rewriting my curriculum because of this insight that I got. So this will be explained today. You'll understand this. It's going to be very difficult to do. This is not an easy one. This is not know everybody else. This is know yourself. And it's really hard to face the shitty, ugly parts of yourself that are holding you back. So we're going to do that. If you have an ego, it's going to come out in class, and it will be destroyed in class. Ego is not your friend. Being cocky and selectively cocky is fine. Being confident is fine, but ego will only keep you from learning. So we're not going to, we'll take care of that. You guys are going to be sharing a lot of things with each other. The guys in this room are going to be very close to you before this course is over because you're going to be saying some things to them that are kind of weird and maybe a little bit gay, but that's okay. You guys, you do your thing, you know. I'm not going to judge you. I wouldn't do that. I'm friends with the race. So the sort of 3 concepts that I've understood that underlie all of development and personal development are these 3 questions, and you can take these notes because this is going to be important. So you may want to go ahead and start recording with your pen and board. So the first question that I found that we need to ask ourselves in order to have true personal development is, who am I? We're going to go through all of these 3 questions one at a time, or especially the who am I question at the last class. The first class is Know Yourself, Hacking Yourself. The second class is Hacking Your Body. That's about body language reading and attraction building. The third class is Hacking Connections. It's about the secrets of rapport. The fourth class is called Hacking Your Meta. It's about an overview of your life, your relationships, more stronger inner game, more intimate inner game stuff as well, and then any concept that fits into sort of just outside of relationships that I think is important enough to mention at that time. It's very structured. I know it sounds like I'm just making it up off the top of my head, but it's a very, very deep part of the class. It starts out very deep. As you can tell, the deep days have fun field nights. So this is all a system I put together. First day has a fun field night, last day has a fun field night. So it's important that we don't kill you guys. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like you, but I don't want you dead, you know. Just kidding, by the way. I do want you dead. No, I do like you. So the second question you have to ask is, who are you? That's whenever you ask who someone else is. Now, you may find that you skipped the first question after asking it once. Who am I? I don't know. Okay, well, who are you? And then you spent the rest of your development trying to figure out other people, which is really common. But that's a problem when you get to the third stage, which is the application stage. And that is, how do I show you who I am? How do I show you who I am is only reached properly if you know who you are to show them who you are. You can read somebody else, and you can manipulate somebody else, but they will find out. It's only a matter of time. You won't have any long-term solid relationships if you do that. Not just that, but you'll constantly have conflict, which, however funny it might be on reality TV, it's not actually very funny in real life. So that kind of goes on. How do I show you who I am? It plays with experiences, your relationships, what you believe your value is, and your communication styles. So we're going to be going over a lot of that as well in the class. So the goal of, again, Hack Yourself is to see your lenses, as Wyatt Woodsmall would put it. Wyatt Woodsmall was one of the guys I have had the privilege and honor of studying with. He was a mentor of Tony Robbins, and he developed a lot of beautiful concepts around psychology. And one of them, I believe, or at least he taught me this, I'm not sure if it was his own, but is that we all see our lives through our lenses, which you probably can imagine. But the problem with that, it never really hit me at the full force of what it really meant until I realized that I was making up and projecting really projecting my problems with my life on everybody else. So I only saw, when I thought about someone else's problems, I only saw what I would have done in that situation, and then I assumed that they were doing what I would have done. But I realized that's actually not the case. There are lots of different types of people who think in a lot of different ways, and that I'm making it very vague right now, but I'll explain it today. So the goal is to see your own lenses. What color are the glasses that you're looking at your life, through which you're looking at your life? What color are those? What are you not seeing, and what are you seeing because of how you've been wired to think at a very young age? Second is, again, hacking your body. That's about reading and understanding body language for other people, but also controlling your own body language, which is really important. Third is connection. That's hacking connection. That is seeing the matrix of rapport. Seeing the matrix of rapport. It's different. It's one thing to understand rapport and be able to create rapport. It's another thing to see the matrix of rapport. And that's what the goal is. And the last is hacking your meta, which is stepping out of your natural processes that you would normally go through when you're looking through your lenses and understanding where other people are coming from. And understanding the truth behind your interactions. Okay, so done a lot of that. There are 3 things that I don't want you to think. These are knowledge killers. These will kill your progress. Write these 3 things down and then forget them. Anytime you hear yourself saying them in your head, if you happen to, recognize that this is going to kill your knowledge. I used to do this all the time. It's your ego talking every single time you do it, so keep it in mind. The first one is, but that's not me. But that's not me. We say, but that's not me, whenever we have something that's outside of our reality. But that's not me. I wouldn't do that. I don't do that. While you're in this class, there's nothing that is not you. We're going to help you develop because that holds back your ability to move forward, holds back your ability to create new belief systems that overlie or replace even your past negative belief systems. So it's not me or that's not me can't go through your head and also cannot come out of your mouth during this class. If you do, you're not getting nearly what you paid for. Another one is, that's not true. That's not true is your assimilation of knowledge from the past and basing it or projecting it at knowledge you're getting now. Accept everything and take what works. If you have an exception to a rule, I want to hear about the exception to the rule. If you want to say, but what about this thing? That's great. I want to hear about that whenever I ask you if you have any questions. Don't do it before then. But be open-minded during this process. Make sure you have, or you get rid of the concept of that's not true concept, all right? And the final is, I already know this. I already know this. I guarantee you there are going to be things in this class that you've heard 50, if not 100 times before. And today, in this class, it's going to click for you for the first time. But if you think, I already know this, it won't. So those are the 3 knowledge killers. I already know this, that's not me, and that's not true. As long as you keep those things out of your mind during this class, you will be fine. You will learn a ton. You'll walk away with a ton of value, and you'll grow a lot as a person. Again, there are going to be things that, and even recently that I went through when I started studying this recent material, where you're not going to want to see these parts of yourself. You're not going to believe they're true, or it's really a part of you. You're not going to want to accept it. As Eben Pagan would say, it'd be like a cat at the edge of a pool going, no, I don't want to go in the water, I don't want to go in the water. But you're going to go in the water. The water is where your truth is. The thing you don't want to look at, the thing where you're saying, that's not me, is the thing that you're trying to hide from yourself. Everything else will not affect you at all. But the one thing that you go, no, I don't want to see that thing, is going to be the thing that's actually going to change you on the inside, change your core belief system. You need to change that in this class. This is not just a class about meeting women. This is a holistic approach to it. You have to be comfortable with that. We're going to be revealing your weaknesses and your strengths in this part of the class. It's all about seeing your lens, like I said before. I want you to accept how you see things, and I want you to improve on the weaknesses that you have. Accept your strengths and improve on your weaknesses. In personal development, your goal is to find your weakness and strengthen it after you're comfortable with your strength, after you've accepted your strength already. If you haven't accepted your strength yet, you will have no energy to continue to improve your weaknesses. I'm going to say that again. If you've not accepted your strengths, you will have no energy left to improve on your weaknesses. It's very important. You're going to have to focus on accepting your strengths first. It's very important, and you're going to like it because it's going to be stroking your ego, which is nice. But whenever you do that, how many people in here feel like they've been spending the last several years of their lives trying to strengthen their weaknesses? Raise your hand. 3, 4. And it gets tiring after a while. And I want you guys to understand that that's the second part of this. If you ever feel like you're fatigued, there's a reason why. And if you only focus on your weaknesses, strengthen your weaknesses, that's good because you'll grow a lot. But you also have to see where you can go when you need results. Otherwise, you'll start to have a lot of negative self-thought, negative talk to yourself. So the first question I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and these are called pre-typing questions. Pre-typing questions are, I don't really want to tell you too much about it yet. I'll tell you about it in a minute after you've answered them. But I'm going to use your answer to these questions in order to figure out how you process information. Okay? I'm going to use the answers that you give in order to figure out how you process information. And that process that you go through is going to reveal a lot about yourself and why you've had a hard time doing certain things that other people have had a very simple time doing. Okay? So the first question is, how do you energize? How do you energize? I'm going to give you a couple examples for answers for that. My major question is, you have multiple choice really. The first choice is, do you energize by talking to people, or do you energize by being alone? When you go out, if you're like, oh, I'm really, really, really tired, do you automatically pick up the phone and want to talk on the phone for like 2 hours? Or do you walk into someone's room, or if you're a roommate, and talk to them? Or are you like, I just need some time by myself. I'm kind of peopled out today. I need to be alone for a little while. Which one is you? You may find that you do both these sometimes, but which one do you do most of the time? Where do you draw your energy? It's probably a question you never asked yourself before. So take your time to think about it. Write down the answer. If you think you do both, that's okay. Which one do you do more? Okay? Everyone have their answer? Yeah? Okay, second question. This question is called, how do you take in info? How do you take in information? How do you receive information? How do you take in info? The way you're going to answer that question is I want you to describe the situation that you're in right now. You have a couple minutes to do this. Why don't you go ahead and do that now? Describe the situation in any way you'd like. Describe the situation that you're in right now. So the next question you're going to have to think about for a minute because it's kind of hard to answer. It's difficult to see how you do this until you think about it, but how do you evaluate things? That's the question. How do you evaluate? I'm going to give you a couple of options as well. Do you evaluate more and be as honest as possible because our natural drive or draw is going to be to go toward the logical brain on this one, the thinker, because that's all we want to do. But think about it this way. You're going to have a dominant evaluation tool that's either your logical brain, thinking, or your emotional brain, feeling. Which one do you use more often? Are you a thinker or are you a feeler? Now, of course, I was like, when I did this, I got this one wrong when I first did it because I was like, well, I rationalized how I used feeling to read body language. And so then I was like, I must be a feeler. But I wasn't. I was a thinker. Plus, I was like, I want to be a thinker, so I probably am not a thinker. So I kind of already assumed that I was going to try to be like, oh, I'm obviously a thinker because I'm a badass. You know, and that's what I wanted to do. So there are benefits to each one, pros and cons to each one, and there are massive pros and cons. So in this class, this information being accurate is very important. So do you process more through your emotions first, or do you process more through your brain first? People who process through their brains first get in their heads a lot. People who process through emotions get flustered a lot. Next is, how do you view time? How do you view time? This is an easy one to answer. I already know the answer to Kevin's, and I know the answer to Milton's as well. How do you view time? The two ways of viewing time, you can figure out, are you always on time or early, or are you always late? How do you view time? Are you always on time or early, or are you always late? Now, I know that some things you want to do, like going to Disney World, you're going to be on time or early. I understand that. But think about generally speaking in your life. Which one are you more? Next. This is an interesting one. You probably never thought about this one either. How do you know if you've done a good job? How do you know if you've done a good job? How do you know if you've done a good job? An interesting question. Next question is, how do you learn? How do you learn? The way you can find this out is, if you look up to the board here, you'll see two markers. I want you to look at these markers, and I want you to compare them. You have a couple minutes to do this, and compare these markers in any way you want. Just write down a list, and you have a couple minutes to do that. Take your time with it. This answer to this question, where you're comparing these two things, isn't going to be enough for you to decide how you actually learn yet, but we'll decide that as the class moves on as well. So this is just a test in the beginning. You may get a clear answer, you may not. So we'll see about that. Kevin's going to hand out a form right now to everyone. I want you to maybe just take one and pass around kind of thing. Okay, so everyone's got a form in front of them. This is a test where I want you to write out 3 people that you admire most in life. 3 people you admire most in life. That's the first question. So take a couple minutes and write out 3 people that you admire most in life. They can be alive, they can be dead. Preferably not dying currently. That would just be a buzzkill. They can be fictional, they can be IRL, as we say. In real life, what? Just think of 3 people that you admire most in life. The reason why you're writing so much down right now is because when you evaluate yourself, you give yourself room to grow. You give yourself the opportunity to grow when you evaluate yourself, and that's what we're doing. 3 people you admire. So if you've gotten past that, the second question you can get to now is the second question on the paper, which is, what is one quality, the one quality, that each of these people has, not in common, just each one individually, that you admire most about them? Why do you admire these people? So, Kevin is going to come around with another piece of paper for you. But while he's doing that, he's just going to hand it straight to Joe, and Joe's going to pass it around. While you're getting this paper, put it face down first. Don't look at it yet. But get your qualities that you admire back out, that sheet, and look at it. And look at the qualities on the bottom that you said about the people that you named. Kevin? About the people that you named. the 3 qualities that you have written down. These 3 qualities are going to be gold to you. The reason why is because these do 2 things. The first thing that these qualities do is these qualities tell you the direction of your life. This is where you're headed. These are the things that you want to gain out of life right now. You only admire people for qualities that you want to gain. That's why you want to hang out with those people, because you want to absorb those qualities. You want to learn about those qualities that they have. Now, the sort of mind shift here is that you already have these qualities. The qualities that you've written down, you already have. Now, what you're doing is you're not looking at them. You're focusing on your weakness in these areas. And so you're not seeing your actual strengths in these areas. And that's why they are so estranged to you and so far away. This is very, very, very important. We're going to revisit this a little bit later as well. These 3 qualities are the qualities that if you had these 3 qualities, you would feel fulfilled. But you feel like you don't have them. And that's the problem. The problem isn't that you don't have them, because you do. The problem is that you feel like you don't have them. You feel like you don't have them. And so you're constantly trying to gain them. The problem with this process that we go through is that when you try to gain these qualities, you don't get them. Ever. You can't gain the qualities that you wrote down. You can't go out and search for them and get them. You have to realize you already have them and cultivate them from inside out. If you try to get them from the outside in, they'll never get in. You'll keep pulling and pulling and pulling, no matter how much time you spend, and you won't get them. The thing that you need to do is recognize you already have these qualities and then cultivate them from the inside out. Does this make sense to anyone? Who just had a big insight? Raise your hand. 2 people. I'm just kidding. Good. This blew my mind when I did this exercise. The 3 people that you wrote down have this one quality. The reason why you want to spend time with them is because you want to gain this quality. And the reason why you can't seem to fully gain this quality is because you can't gain these qualities from the outside. You have to gain them from the inside out. All right, so we're going to go through these different things one at a time, and I want you to circle either something on the left or something on the right as I ask you to do. Here's what I want you to do. If you said that you regain your energy, if you energize alone, circle I. If you energize alone, circle I. If you energize talking to people, circle E. The next thing I had you do is I had you describe the situation you're in right now. Do you remember that? I hope you do. Okay. I want you to think about how you described it. For example, Kevin, did you do the exercise as well? Why don't you tell me how you describe the situation you're in right now?
I'm in a chair.
Okay.
I'm watching Josh.
Okay.
I'm learning things.
Okay, great.
I'm comfortable.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
Okay.
And I want a hug.
Okay, you want a hug. Okay. Let me get one more. Let me get Mel, because I think you're going to be interesting, always.
Yeah, I feel excited.
Excited?
I feel very chill and relaxed right now.
Okay.
And I feel good seeing new people.
Okay. Good. There's a very distinct difference between the way Mel answered and the way Kevin answered, in particular. Kevin answered, and this is interesting to me because I typed you something different whenever you gave me your type before. Kevin answered all things that are sensory. I'm sitting in a chair, I'm looking at Josh, I'm feeling hungry. And Mel answered all things that were intuitive on a big picture. Mel is an intuitive. Kevin, I believe you're a sensor. I don't think that you are intuitive. So if you describe things piece by piece like data, I'm doing this, I'm looking at this, I'm feeling this, as in physical sensation, I'm smelling this guy next to me.
What about if you have a feeling and then you describe it a lot?
A feeling that you described a lot?
Is that
Probably an intuitive. Now these are going to be open a little bit, so circle the N if you described it vaguely on a big picture like Mel did. Circle N if you described it on a big picture like Mel, and then circle S if you described it in detail like Kevin did. In detail. I'm sitting here, I'm sensing things with my 5 senses. This is very important, what you guys just did. You just typed yourself as either an intuitive or a sensor. This means the way you go about meeting women is very, very, very different. Intuitives typically are better at very fast-moving, high-energy situations. Better, and they operate better in those situations. Intuitives see the big picture for things, but they have a really crappy time getting the details down. Really hard time getting details down. We seem aloof sometimes. People feel like we don't care sometimes. I'm an intuitive, and I don't care. And that's how it is. But sensors are detail-oriented. They think in details. Sometimes they don't get the big picture, though, and they climb up the ladder and realize they're at the wrong... They get to the top of the ladder and they realize they're at the wrong building. They're like, crap. I've been climbing a ladder because that's what I've been told to do, but then I realize I'm at the wrong building now, so I got to climb all the way back down. These guys are very good at one-on-one. Very, very good at one-on-one. Really connect with people because they get the details back and forth. They can communicate really well. 75% of the population are sensors. 75%. 25% are intuitors. How many people were sensors? Raise your hand. Wrote in details. 3. And the rest are all intuitives? It's not uncommon to see that in a class like this, though, because it's a big picture class, but it's really overweighted right now. It's a large majority that are of people in classes like this are intuitives. The sensor market typically don't want stuff like this. You can be somewhere near in the middle. You can be, it can be unconsequential as to which direction you go to on this, but if you feel a draw in one area specifically, like everything you listed was a sensation, then you're definitely a sensor. All right. If you process through your emotions first, Joe, I'm just kidding. If you process through your emotions first, then you are a feeler. If you process through your logic first, then you're a thinker. If you're a thinker, this is a hard one to answer, like I said, so you're going to have to come back to this, and a lot of us will probably be feelers and we think we're thinkers, and then the thinkers are going to overthink it and think that they're feelers. So it's going to be, it's one of those things. But if you are a thinker, circle the letter T on your page. And if you're a feeler, circle the letter F. Circle the letter F there. This means a lot, especially while you're in field. Thinkers get in their head in field. Feelers get freaked out in field. Thinkers get in their head and they say, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. And feelers go, I feel scared, I feel scared, I feel scared. You might go, I don't know what to do, I feel scared. That's what I used to do. I'd freak myself out after I didn't know what to do. Feelers tend to walk into an environment and go, this feels good. This feels right. Thinkers tend to go into an environment and go, this looks good, this sounds good. All right, next I tried to ask you if you were on time or late often. Kevin, I can circle this for you if you want me to. I don't want you to waste any energy, of course. If you're on time and you're structured, you are a judger type. And I want you to circle the J on your page. If you are always late, you're a spontaneous perceiver. This is exactly why Mel is so good at infield at nighttime. Especially, you'd probably be even better during the daytime. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Judgers fall into the PUA trap. They fall into the PUA trap because they need structured things to do. They need a system for everything. I do this, then I do this, then I do this. And if you are an options person, which is a totally different system that I'll tell you about probably in the future, you have the benefit of being, the pleasure of being someone who creates procedures but can't follow them, but needs procedures in order to continue. So you will get into a I don't know what the fuck to do kind of state all the time. I'm an options person, but luckily I'm a perceiver. So I don't need a system for everything. I create the system, which is what you see me doing. And if it doesn't work, if you give me a system, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go, how can I change this? I do that to every system I've ever gotten. I can't follow the directions independently. I can't do it. If you give them to me, I automatically think that whoever made these directions is not as smart as me. And I somehow need to do it better. That's because I'm an options person, though. There's options and procedure people. That's different. This is about being structured in your life or spontaneous consistently. Like I said, the structured people fall into the PUA trap, the PUA bubble. They need to do a structure every single time. The problem with this is that you're inflexible and you're judgmental. So you can't change when things happen. That's the weak side of that. The positive side of that is that you're really good at familiar environments, very good at navigating familiar environments, especially with women. If you have a place that you know really well, you can go in and you can own it. That's really important. People who are spontaneous, who are perceivers, never get that privilege of being able to say, I know what's going on in the situation. I feel comfortable here. You also stick to what works, and you plow better. Judges plow better. They look at people as a whole, and they decide who they are automatically, and they don't allow mental room for that person to change in their view, unless something drastic happens. So, let's continue. Spontaneous, late people, perceivers, the P's, if you are spontaneous late, circle the P. You are really good in high energy environments, again. Quick on your toes. Calibrate very quickly. P's calibrate very quickly. Calibrate. They see their mistakes that they make as they make them. Judges do not do that. It takes them a while. They have to make the same mistake sometimes. The problem, the weakness of a perceiver, is self-doubt. Self-doubt. You never feel fully comfortable in your environment. Overload. You're always taking in new information constantly. You get overloaded. And you have to use your emotions to learn. This means you're very vulnerable in the beginning of an interaction. Especially when you're building attraction, when you can't be vulnerable. Judges tend to be better at using a system to create attraction, but end up being very poor at building rapport. Typically, unless they have some counterbalancing traits, like, for example, they're feelers. Then it's a lot easier for them to build rapport. Or intuitives. All right, so anyway, so I asked you how you know when you've done a good job earlier. That's a really important question to ask. It's going to decide where your frame is. Chet, why don't you tell me how the badass bitch banger knows when he's done a good job?
When somebody else gives me an accolade.
Okay, someone tells you this is a really good job. Okay. All right, let's go to Chris, just so I get everyone's names. You're Chris, right?
Yeah.
Chris, what'd you have done?
It worked.
It worked?
You don't have to fix it.
Okay, cool. All right, those are two very good answers because they're opposite. So that's good. It's really good to have. So we'll continue on. Let me skip over to Matt real quick.
Something meets my expectations.
Okay. Something meets your expectations. That's interesting. So this describes where your frame is. If you have an internal frame, then, and that's where it says internal or big at the bottom of the page, you say you did a good job on your own terms. You evaluate your own work and you say, I did a good job. It's good because I don't have to fix it, like you said. It's good because I know it's a good job. It works. Right. You have an internal frame. If you said when someone else, anything, when someone looks at my work and tells me, whenever I get confirmation, you have an external frame. You have an external frame. What do you have, Joe? Internal frame. I have an external frame. Let me tell you the pros and cons for each one. An external frame, someone who has an external frame is very good at building rapport because they're always looking for a reaction out of someone. They're constantly saying, how does this person react to what I'm doing? Which is what rapport is really about. It's communication. But they're really poor at plowing through resistance or dealing with tests because we go, why did someone not like me? That sucks. I must really suck. People who have internal flames, they're on fire! People who have internal frames are really, typically, have a strength or an affinity for creating attraction. They have an affinity for creating attraction. But they're poor, typically, at calibrating and changing methods because they're not reading other people. They're not going, do they like this? Do they not like this? If you calibrate constantly and you have an external frame, then you can change and go, they don't like this, obviously, so I'm going to switch this up. People who have internal frames typically in the beginning especially crash and burn big time when they burn. When they get burned, they like go up in flames. They go up in flames. So, because you don't stop doing the thing that isn't working when you have an internal frame because you haven't recognized that it's not working until sometime a little later. Now, if you're a judger and you have an internal frame and you're a sensor, then you're going to have a really hard time seeing when people don't like what you're doing, which is good and bad. It's good because most women are testing you in the beginning. So you're going to pass a whole lot of tests. They're going to be like, you're stupid. Yeah. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's not going to faze you because you have an internal frame. And you're not really listening to them because you're judging everyone in the same situation. So keep that in mind. People who are, and if you're an introvert on top of that, you've got like a completely different set of skills than any coach has ever taught you. Coaches are typically extroverts, typically intuitives, and typically perceivers. Unless they're judgers. In which case they're not perceivers. And you can be somewhere in the middle of both of these if you need to, or not if you need to. If you are somewhere in the middle of both of these, that's okay. Milton, you're pretty much in between thinker and feeler, aren't you? Yeah.
More thinker.
You're one more thinker than you are feeler?
Plus one more.
Yeah. So that means that because he's only one over him, and the scale usually is like 1 to sometimes 100 or sometimes 30, depending on what test you're going through. But you can be more so in one area and lesser in another. And you don't want to identify with this and let this box you up. That's what's really important. And I'll explain that in a minute, though. Finally, I asked you to compare two markers up here. How many people wrote they're both markers? You didn't do that? What are you doing? Oh, you're looking at it. Okay. How many people wrote down they're both markers? Raise your hand. Okay, 1. How many people wrote down they're both expo? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. How many people wrote one's green and one's black? Almost everybody? All right, there are two different types of processors, people who process information. Let me just go back and make sure I use the right ways you learn, rather. There are sameness learners and there are difference learners. Sameness and difference. Look at what you wrote down and see if everything's about how they're different, or if you tried. These were very similar, so you may have tried to really, if you even tried to search, is one leaning a little bit more than the other one? Is one like, has light on it more than the other one? If you're trying to do that in your head, you're definitely a difference person. If you're like, these are the same, this is the same, this is the same, you have very short things written down, well, they're both blah, they're both blah. Chris might be one of those people. Then you're a sameness person. A sameness person. Now let me tell you the difference. Sameness people look at how things are the same. How is this like this? That's very important. You recognize patterns very well. Recognize patterns very well, especially broad stroke patterns. Sameness. You recognize patterns in how people are the same, how situations are like other ones. This is how you learn. This is how you learn. You can strengthen this by trying to study the other, but it takes a long time to study and change this mentality. Right now, your strength is in seeing the sameness in other things. I want to tell you what that means in a second here, though. That means a lot about you. You lay past lessons over new experiences. You lay the lessons you've learned in the past over top of your new experience right now. You go, what's the same in both of these images? What's the same in both of these images? The bad thing is, about that, is that, one, you automatically think that everyone else thinks exactly like you, which is not true. You automatically think that everybody else that you come in contact with has the same motivations as you, has the same desires as you, even has the same insecurities as you. That's not true either. Another thing is it takes you a really long time to learn a lesson because you have to have a lot of experiences to pull into a sameness group. If you only have one experience and you're a sameness person, you will learn zero from that experience. You have to have multiple of the same thing in a similar situation in order to learn a general concept. These people typically take leaps over years, but massive changes over years of work in all areas of their lives. Because it takes them to get a lot of experience to learn a lesson, a lot of similar experiences. You also have broad strokes, so you have, especially if you're a judger, and you're saying, are you a judger and a sameness person?
Yes.
You're like everything I've been saying so far, it's the exact opposite to me. You're an introvert too, or are you an extrovert? You're an extrovert? Whew, I'm kidding. How many introverts do we have in the house? Raise your hand. 1, 2 introverts in the whole house. All right, we're going to test that one later. We definitely will. I realized recently that I've been trying to talk to introverts, and then I've been so frustrated because they don't want to talk very much, and I like to talk all the time. So like I said, if I get home and I'm like exhausted completely, and I've been talking to people all day about something, I want to like call another person and talk to them. Keep that in mind. I thought that everyone wanted to do that, so I was like, man, that person's just temperamental or something. I didn't know what else to say. I knew that there was a difference, but I didn't know that was the difference. I thought that maybe people who are introverted just didn't know how to be extroverted, really. They're like, oh, well, I'm introverted. Oh, well, I can change that. I don't want to change that. I don't think you understand. You do want to try to use whatever skill is best used, whatever personality type is best used for the situation that you're in. So the ultimate goal is to be above this system, to be able to do both of each one of these. A difference person, back on track, takes fewer trials to learn, fewer mistakes in order to learn. They say, how is this different than that? So if you screw up twice, you'll go, okay, what was all the different things that I did last time versus the things that I did this time? When I was successful and then I wasn't successful, I'd go, okay, how do I label success by taking away all the things I screwed up on? That person learns very quickly from mistakes, but they have very little consistency when it comes to success, and they become addicted to mistakes too. They make a whole bunch of them all the time because it helps them get information.